the center. Traditionally, that means that they're most interested in him. But they've moved Branch Warren in now.
Right.
What is this telling you?
It's a little hard. We know that they see Dennis as the front runner in this group because they moved him center. But this flip-flopping of Ramey and Branch tells me that they're having a hard time figuring out what to do with Ramey. Now, unlike from the front where we saw that lower body detail starting to come in, we're not seeing it change from the back. You see that the glute and hamstring looks pretty much the same as earlier. That's indicative that genetically he holds more fat in those areas. So with all this mass that he has, you see the muscularity in his lower back when he hit his Christmas tree briefly. This is a guy who just needs to come in significantly lighter and more ripped, and then he will be very dangerous. Dennis Wolf, very hard, very, very hard.
Abdominals and thighs.
Shoulders and arms are hard as well. The torso looks a little flatter than we're used to from Dennis. Dennis usually across his chest and shoulders looks very big, very round, very full, but his conditioning is very good. Just looks to me like he might have depleted his carbohydrates too much, not carved back up enough, which is very tricky, especially for bigger guys, because sometimes they need a lot of carbohydrate to fill out their body, and he just may not have gotten there, which is also indicative that tomorrow night he may look like a different person. With another day to eat up, he may come out tomorrow night and he may shock people. But it looked to me from the movement and the way his conditioning came on that the judges were favoring him in that call out. But that doesn't mean they favored him enough to see him move up to the next group.
14,
maybe, maybe not.
Six, Steve Kluko. 3, Freddie Smalls. And 9, John De La Rosa.
Now, when Rulli came out, we talked about his conditioning not being where he needed to be. This is a big drop for Rulli Winkler. He was, in some ways, one of the big pleasant surprises of last year's Olympia. And he took 7th at last year's Olympia. Jay Cutler was 6th. And he beat Big Ramey at last year's Olympia, but his conditioning just not up to par at this year's Olympia. So not going to be a happy outing for Rulli Winkler.
Side chest.
And one of the athletes that the judges clearly disagree with me on is William Bonac, because they haven't brought him out, and I thought that he compared pretty favorably with a lot of the athletes that are out there right now. That's what makes the sport subjective, and that's why so many people argue about it and have strong opinions.
And say mean things to you on Twitter.
Not too much.
That's good. As far as your predictions out tonight, I will say that they have been absolutely impeccable. Curious to see. I think it's going to be very telling if they decide to call out Dennis Wolf with Kai Green and Phil Heath and Sean Roden.
That'll tell us a lot.
That'll tell us a lot real quick.
It will. Or perhaps someone else in that group. Maybe they like Dexter Jackson in that group. Maybe they liked Big Ramey in that group. You know, maybe they like Branch in that group. But it seemed from moving Dennis to the center and his conditioning that if they were going to pull somebody out of that group, my guess would be that it would be Dennis.
Abdominals and thighs.
Now, Juan Morel moves to the middle, which does not surprise me in this group because his conditioning looked very good when he came out for the free posing by himself. And as they're posing, I think the judges see that the discrepancy in Rulli's conditioning with some of the other athletes is causing him to fade a little. So you notice they moved him out of the center and Juan in. Juan, I'm sorry.
Relax. Juan and Steve back in line, please.
Okay, so that's indicative that the judges think those are the best two in this group. My guess is they're now going to bring out Bonac and whoever's left to compete with the rest of...
Johnny back in line, please.
Yeah, to compete with the rest of the athletes who were in that call-out.
So this is likely the bottom end of the 17
Correct.
competitors.
Correct.
Front double bicep.
So we have 6 guys on stage, so this is going to be 12 through 17.
Front lat spread.
Which means the highest that Ruli Winkler will be, unless something changes, is 12.
Side chest.
Which is a very big drop for him from last year.
Unpleasant surprise for him.
Yeah.
Back double bicep.
But he also said at the press conference that after he had the accident that he questioned whether he'd ever be able to compete again. So if you're in a position where you think that your livelihood and your passion is going to be taken away, and you're able to make it back to the Olympia stage to compete at all, I would say on some level that's a win.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Side tricep. Abdominals and thighs.
And if Ruli was in the shape he was in last year, he wins this group. So it's not, we mentioned this with one of the other athletes earlier on, that it's one thing if you're in your best shape and the sport is passing you by. It's another thing if you were off and you got beat by people that you're still capable of beating.
Thank you, gentlemen. Back in
line. If I recall correctly, his motorcycle accident happened around February. So the fact that he's on this stage looking like this here in September, still a tremendous accomplishment.
Without a doubt.
Dennis Wolf.
I didn't have a motorcycle accident in February. I don't look like that.
Kai Green.
Oh, here you go. Look at this.
Sean Roden and Phil Heath.
And there you go. So, as we talked about earlier, Dennis won that call-out and has now been, for lack of a better word, graduated to compete against what was previously the top 3, now the top 4.
Okay, gentlemen, front double bicep.
Tell me what you're seeing here.
Front lat spread.
One thing that jumps out to me is how much more vascular Kai Green's legs got. Which, again, I want to sound like a broken record, but that means he came out holding a lot of fluid. And as he's drying out, posing, he's getting harder, which I think is what we're seeing with Kai. I think Kai looks much better now than when he first walked out.
Absolutely.
Back lat spread. Side tricep.
Hopefully the judges won't be afraid to put Phil and Kai next to one another, because that's really what needs to happen. It's hard to compare them on opposite sides of the stage. Dennis, to me, again, very conditioned, excellent condition, but flat. And I think that will keep him behind Kai and in a battle with Roden. He is more conditioned than Sean, and Sean is a little bit rounder and fuller, you know, for his physique. So that's a close one to call.
If you're just tuning in, you're wondering what Larry was referencing there about the judges being afraid to put Kai next to Phil. It's because earlier they were actually screaming at them on the microphone because there was almost a physical altercation on stage. And going back to just yesterday at the press conference, same sort of thing. It is a heated battle between these two.
Thank you, gentlemen. Bob, back to you.
No more comparisons.
All right, Head Judge Steve Weinberg has concluded prejudging. That's going to wrap it up for the guys here tonight, folks. I'd like to thank everyone for coming out. Folks, tomorrow at the Expo, 10:30 start time. We've got the finals for the Flex Bikini Model Search and the Muscle and Fitness Male Model Search, the finals for women's physique and men's physique, and the men's 212. All at the Expo tomorrow on the main stage. Tomorrow night, right here, we're expecting a sold-out crowd. If you don't have tickets yet, I highly suggest you get them if they're still available. And for Joe Weider's 50th Olympia, that's going to wrap things up here tonight. Good night, everybody. We'll see you at the Expo.
Time to put before.